So I will put this question now to Ravi because Ravi has been a professor with the Jawaharlal Nehru University of Architecture and Fine Arts for long years, and he has been responsible for teaching many of the students and has worked extensively academically. So where do you think that, is there a possibility of creating that language, and does it have something to do with the way we teach architecture and design in this country?
I think I'll just shift or sort of switch from this, depressive, description of the situation of architecture in our country. Let me, I think, give you just two examples. I think instead of we trying to learn how to make iconic buildings or great products of architecture from the West, we should be proud that we have a process-led architecture right now in India, which doesn't generate great products. But I had a team coming in for 3 consecutive years from Germany to learn how our slums actually, create their own spaces. How do they manage with such resources to exist and be happy in the whole process? So they had, and these students were right from undergraduates to PhD scholars and professors coming in teams to learn about this. And very recently, I happened to look at a book called Learning from Delhi. I mean, if you've seen it, it's fundamentally about scholars. I mean, there's a whole department in London which had, I think, about 5 years of students being sent to Delhi to learn from the poor how they build and how do they exist. And these things cannot be documented so easily because it's very tough to document all this, but they've tried doing it in their book and they all say that they've learned so much from it. What I'm trying to say is, India is great in software. Maybe it's lost out in hardware. There's a reason for it because we are not resource rich compared to the other advanced countries. So when you're resource rich, when I'm talking about resource rich, I'm talking about resources per capita. In fact, we are dwindling our resources as long as the population is increasing, our resources per capita are dwindling. So we're innovating on the software side. That's one of the reasons I think India has the greatest software, people. So I believe we have not seen the actual strengths that India has had, because we really can't go the hardware way. We have to recognize that long back when our population actually has gone onto this curve of growth without increasing our resources, we had to fall back on our software methods. So the soft process methods that India is strong on is what is luring the West to come and learn from India. Yes, at the top end, when we are trying to, sort of innovate in the product side, yes, we have to look at resource-rich countries which have had the resources to experiment. But I think we shouldn't forget that we are the richest country in terms of soft processes, software. And this comes from the bottom half of our population who are forced to innovate in the processes to go on, learning how to do with less and less and less. And I think that's very important. That's the way India should be growing, because there's no way you can talk about more resources per capita.
Okay, so that's an interesting take. You're talking about that it's like the small is beautiful concept, where you're talking about how to make best out of the available resources. But still, you have addressed an issue which is about the basic amenities of providing a very dignified way of life, and that's talking about probably slums. But what about the larger picture of the urban development? Would you agree there at least that we have not been able to achieve certain standardized format of development? Okay, let's look at it this way. Many of the Indian cities have now added newer parts to it, and Hyderabad is also has an example of Gachibowli, but even the newer part of the city doesn't look as new as it should because it's only 10, 15 years old. It still does not have footpaths. It still does not have proper electrical lines or the tree plantation or the public gardens. Yes, so maybe there are some inbuilt inherent qualities that we have that we manage very well within available resources, but should that be looked at as an excuse not to improve on our other external performances?
No, I don't look at it as an excuse. I'm just stating a fact that our resources per capita are dwindling fast. And yes, 20 years back, Hyderabad was much better because we had more resources. Every person had more space, more commons, whether it's called road space or whether it's open spaces, parks, whatever you call it. But today, we have greater numbers to share the same space with. And we cannot keep creating all these things. We don't have those sort of resources. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, so I think this is a different dimension which we wanted to talk about a little later, but I'll bring that in first, is that is touched upon that where how we are able to manage the resources that a city needs